John, probably the most common action that we see in our office is a GOMOR, a General Officer Memorandum of Reprimand. A soldier's been issued a GOMOR and they have 10 days to respond. What is a GOMOR?
A GOMOR is a letter of reprimand presented by a general officer who has general court-martial convening authority over any soldier under his or her command.
Right. Now, any general officer can issue a GOMOR. The question I have is, how does a soldier know that they've been issued a GOMOR? What happens?
Typically what happens is the soldier is presented with the GOMOR, the actual letter of reprimand from the general officer. It's signed by the actual general officer himself or herself. And along with that comes the underlying investigation or the underlying allegations of misconduct that support the presentation of that GOMOR.
What's the basis of proof that must sustain a GOMOR?
It's preponderance of the evidence, and we've talked about preponderance of evidence in other videos that we've shared. And preponderance of the evidence, again, as a refresher, is if you were to assign a number value to it, is 50.1% of proof in favor of supporting the allegations.
What are the typical types of misconduct that a soldier receives a GOMOR for?
The typical types of misconduct that we see that support a GOMOR, DUIs for sure. Usually it's some sort of lesser types of offenses, violations of regulations, sharp violations, sexual harassment, EEO violations. Usually it's those types of lower level misconduct that's addressed by a GOMOR, not always necessarily rising to the more severe types of misconduct covered under the UCMJ, such as sexual assault or aggravated assault.
Right, I've seen a bunch of GOMORs come down for inappropriate relationships, what used to be adultery, which is now extramarital sexual conduct. Those type of behaviors usually result in some type of general officer memorandum of reprimand. When you get notice, when a soldier gets notice of a GOMOR, what is the general telling that soldier?
As you said, there's 10 days to respond to the GOMOR. The general is essentially saying, I am presenting you this GOMOR. However, you do have a chance to rebut the underlying foundation of this GOMOR and present to me your rebuttal. And your rebuttal can consist of numerous different things.
Right, so there are three things that can happen with a GOMOR. First, the general officer can say, that's very compelling, and tear it up and throw it away. Second thing they can do is they can file it locally in your local file where it just maintains for a specific period of time and then it's destroyed. Or third, it can be filed in your official file with HRC. That is the most devastating aspect of a GOMOR, filing it with HRC. What should a soldier do if they're facing a GOMOR and the decision has not been made where to file that GOMOR?
Once a GOMOR is filed in your official military personnel file, then it falls under a different regulation as well, and that regulation is AR 600-37, which is a regulation that covers unfavorable information. And you are afforded certain rights to rebut against that unfavorable information.
If you receive a GOMOR, why should you come see the law office of William Helixon in fashioning your rebuttal?
There are numerous different ways in which you can fashion your rebuttal, and each case is always unique. But one of the ways in which we usually address or rebut a GOMOR is we look at the underlying foundation, the underlying misconduct, the underlying allegations themselves, which are usually in the form of some sort of investigation. And with that investigation, as we know, investigating officers aren't the best always at investigating certain types of allegations. It's a secondary duty that they take on. And they are not professional investigators. There are differences in terms of how they investigate the allegations. The witnesses may not be, all the witnesses may not be interviewed. There may be other types of facts that have not been uncovered by the IL that we ourselves, as the law office of William Helixson, would take under our wing and investigate the allegations themselves.
Right, so we would go back to the original investigation and see if it was sufficient. If we determined it wasn't, we would attack that investigation, and then we would fashion a response to the GOMOR, first saying why it shouldn't even exist, Then, if it does exist, if you do find that there's misconduct, why it should be filed locally, the extenuation and mitigation as to why it should not ruin that soldier's career. Those are the things that we can do. We are the Law Office of Will M. Helixon. We are your warrior advocates. You defend the nation. We defend you.